on a series on SC200 security operation analyst. The last class we were able to look at incidents and alerts, how we can manage alerts, especially incidents and alerts, managing and investigating alerts. Went into a deep dive. We were able to do some demo. Then we went to discuss managing automated investigations. And we spoke a lot extensively about different levels of automations, important points about different automation level, talk about automation level itself, and how threats are remediated, basically. Then we also started our introduction on talking about actions and submissions. Able to look at our action center. When we say the action center of the Microsoft Defender portal list pending and completed remediations, actions for your device, emails, and collaboration content, and identity in one place. So today we'll start our discussion by looking at submissions. Now, for submissions generally, in Microsoft side of things, in Microsoft 365 organization with Exchange Online, admins can use the submission portals in the Microsoft Defender portal to submit all email messages, all URLs, and even attachments to Microsoft for scanning. So submission as the name implies you're trying to submit something, right? But what are we submitting to? We're actually submitting to Microsoft. So long the organization is have an Exchange Online mailbox, right? So the submission portal is actually one good place you can submit email messages, URLs, and attachments to Microsoft directly from for scanning. And when you submit an email message for analysis, some of the things that you get from Microsoft are things around email authentication check. Now, this will detail on whether email authentication passed or failed when it is delivered, right? Then another thing you will get from Microsoft is what we call policy aids. Now, information about any policies that may have allowed or block the incoming emails into your tenant, overriding Microsoft service filter verdict. So you get that policy in also from Microsoft. Another thing you're going to get from Microsoft is a payload reputation or detonations, right? So you get an up-to-date examination of any URLs or any attachment in the message. Then another thing you get is all called gradar analysis. Now, gradar analysis review done by human graders in order to confirm whether or not the messages are malicious. Now, one thing you have to note about payload and detonations and grid analysis, they are not done on all tenants, right? So information is blocked from going outside the organization when data is not supposed to leave the tenant's boundary for compliance purposes. So it's not all tenant that Microsoft actually does those two for. So but every other one, the email authentication, the policy aids, Microsoft does that. Now, before you begin, basically, what do you need to know before you actually begin using the submission portal? Now, to submit messages and files to Microsoft, right, you need any of the following. First of all, you must either be a security administrator or a security reader in the Microsoft Defender portal. Now, those are the two admins, apart from the global admins, which is the super admin, that actually have access to this Defender portal. Either you're a security administrator or you are a security reader. If you don't have any of those roles assigned or the global admin itself, you'll not even be able to access the Defender portal. Also, admins of the organization that's talking about security administrator or security reader now, they can submit messages as old as 30 days. So if it is still available in the mailbox and it has not been purged by the user or another admin. So if the message, so there's what called false positive, false negative. Now the false positive is a situation whereby an email that is supposed, to actually deliver to a user, the email is getting delivered to the junk folder for the user. Why for false negative? An email that is expected to actually deliver to the junk is now delivering into the inbox of the user. So probably the email contains a malicious attachment or a malicious URL. So in such a scenario now, so when the email actually get delivered to and the user notices that, oh, this looks like a spam email, right? So the user can actually delete the email, purge it from their mailbox, or another admin actually, purge it from their mailbox. But so long as the message is still 30 days old, or less than 30 days old, you can actually submit such messages for submission to Microsoft. Now, for administrations generally now. So admin submissions are throttled in the following rates. First, the maximum submission is in any 15-minute period is 150 submissions. So in any 15-minute submissions, that means an admin can actually submit up to 10 messages to Microsoft, right, per minute. That's the maximum. So the same submission in 24 hours period. So if you're going to submit the same messages within 24 hours to Microsoft, it has to be maximum 3 submission. Then also the same submission in 15 minutes period. So you're going to submit the same message within 15 minutes period. It has to be one message per that submission. Now, if you look at the submission portal here, we have the emails. So if it is an email itself that you feel something is wrong with, the email itself is malicious, you just come to this email portal, right, to actually submit it by clicking on submit to Microsoft for analysis. So you can select what do you want to submit. Is it an email? Is it a URL? Or is it an email attachment? So you have the opportunity to select anyone based on what you want to submit. If it's an email itself you want to submit, then you leave it as an email. Now, the next thing, you have to add the email network message ID. Now, there's actually a way to get an email message ID, which by the time now we discuss more on the vendor for Office 365, I can show you. But one of the ways is actually basically it can run if the emails is delivered to one of the user in the organization, it can run a message trace, right? From the message trace, it's going to give you that the email ID. And if the email is sent to you as an admin too, you can also use a message trace from the Exchange Online portal to also do that. So once you have the email, you can just put the email message ID here. Let me see if I have an example. Yeah, let me go to my Exchange Online to show you that quickly. Okay, so this is my Exchange Admin Center. If you click on Mail Flow here and you click on Message Trace, so this is going to open your message trace portal for you. Then click on Start a Trace. So let's say, I don't know, if I know the particular sender that sent the email, I can put the sender email address here. So let's assume I don't even know the sender at the moment, right? And I don't even know the recipient that reported the issue. So I can just leave these two by default. I can select to 7 days or whichever day. Then I can click on the summary report and search. Now, what the summary report is going to do for you is this. It's going to give you the date the email was sent, body date and time, who is the sender, then who is the recipient, then the subject of the email. So this is what a summary report is going to do for you. Let me open this, for example. Now, for this particular report now, it shows me that the report is sent, but where I'm interested is this message event. Click on this drop down for the message event here. It tells you what happened to the message, then message information, you scroll down. So this is the message ID, right? You can copy this message ID and just paste it, right? Or better still, the email itself, if you go to the user mailbox, you can actually save the email as the way you save a file, you can save the email. So maybe you already saved the email either at .msg or .eml. So you can select this option here, and you'll be able to upload. You browse to the file where the file is, right? Then you upload it from there, basically. Um, Let me show you another way. So this speaks to the message trees of the email. Now, for you to get the network ID, actually, you have to do what we call extended trace. So extended trace means that taking the slider beyond 10 days, right? Once the slider goes beyond 10 days, you can do a summary email like we have the summary here. So you have to do beyond that. So you click on, so you can see that the summary is grayed out. Why? Because it has recognized that the slider is beyond 10 days. You can only get emails that is lesser than 10 days as a summary email, which can actually um, access online instantly the moment you do it. But if you select the enhanced report or the extended report now, it would actually take some time before the report to be ready. And say, please provide this one of the following fields, send that address. So this also requires you to actually supply something. Let me close this first and check any other message that was not delivered here. So I think most of this my messages were delivered. Let me pick this guy as a sender, for example. So, okay, let me just edit this and put the sender. So depending on the number of emails that this sender have sent to users in my organization, right, it will determine how long it will take for this report to be generated. So once the report is ready, an email will be sent to the admin, which is this guy here. And once the admin receive the email, the admin will be able to, view the email and also download the report of the email. So that report will actually contain this it will contain the email network ID, right? From the network ID, you'll be able to, submit that particular email. So Microsoft can, for every email, it's just like a user identity. For every email, it has its own identity. So you have the option also to choose why are you submitting this message to Microsoft, right? I've confirmed it's clean, it's appeared clean, it appears suspicions, I've confirmed it's a threat. So depending on your scenario, you just select anyone that is applicable. And the same thing goes for if you're submitting the URL, for example, now. So once you select URL, the next is just to put the URL link here. Once you drop the URL link here and select the option here, then you'll be able to submit these as well. If it is an email attachment, so after downloading the attachment, right, you can click on the browse file, then go into the location where you've downloaded the attachments and upload the file, then you submit them to Microsoft. Now, if you are going to report suspicious content to Microsoft, right, on the submission page, as you've seen, you have to verify that the email or the email attachment or the URL tab is selected based on the type of content that you want to report. So either email attachment, this is another one, right? So it's the same experience for everything because when you select these, right, and you click on submit, it still takes you to this place. Only that you have the option to toggle which of the following you want to actually, select, right? Then and then you select the submit to Microsoft for analysis as you've seen. So to submit to Microsoft for analysis. Now, you use to submit for Microsoft analysis flyout to appear to submit the respective content. So either the email, URLs or email. Now, one thing you have to note is that file and URL submission are not available in the cloud. That don't allow for data to leave environment. So if your tenant is designed in such a way that you don't allow data to leave your environment, the file and also the URL submissions will not be available. And the ability to send file or URL will be grayed out. So if you check for files here, I don't have any restriction on this tenant, right? So hence these are actually, enabled for me. So I'm able to click on either I want to add a new submission here, just like we did for emails and email attachment. So for this now, we'll be able to see what is selected is file or file arch. So we select file, right? So it tells me that the maximum file size is 500 MB. Use password infected to encrypt the archive file. It says that submit only the specific files you want to analyze. Submitting an installer package or an archive with a large number of files may delay the analysis and cause your submission to be deprioritized. So for files itself, you are able to select which category. Is it a malware? Is it an unclean software or is it clean? Then in terms of priority, low is for bulk file or file arch submission. The medium is actually for standard submission. Why you need immediate attention. So for this, you can only use it 3 times. So it's 3 allowed per organization per day. So if you're using the I, just know that you can only use just 3 times, just 3 times for your organization. So that's actually for file. Then Then Microsoft has added the option for Teams messages as well. So for Teams messages, you are able to see if there are actually things for Teams. So this will only give you data. You don't have the option on like the email and also the URLs and as well as the file to submit for analysis. So Teams messages is currently not enabled, but you'll be able to see if there are actually reports that can actually be submitted. Now, if you notice for user reports, for example, now, this is actually grayed out for user reported. This option is grayed out. So if users have actually reported using so there's an icon in Outlook. Let me see. So user also have the option to, submit or mark a file as phishing in their Outlook. Let me open this, for example. So you see the report option here, right? So this file is this email is actually one of the email that's you feel is a phishing email, right? You also have the option to report as an end user here. So that's what it was speaking to earlier. All right. So those are the options that are actually available. Now you actually have the option to select user reported messages tab, then select the message that you want to mark and notify by selecting mark as or in notify a drop down and select no threats or phishing or junk like the one we saw. Now for the reported messages that will be marked as false positive or false negative, email notification is sent automatically from within the portal to the user who has reported the message. Now, generally, when you want to submit any questionable email from Microsoft, so it's always better that you have the option to go to the email itself, like the demo earlier, then you click on submit to Microsoft form for analysis, right? And when you need to add the network ID, when I mentioned earlier, the ID is actually a kind of a key value that is available in the XML message organization network ID header. in the message or in the XM Office featuring correlation ID in the quarantine message. Let me show you one quick URL. I hope I remember this URL. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so message header analyzer. So this message header analyzer is actually one of two by Microsoft itself. Microsoft actually owns this too. Now let's say I have this message. You click on view message details, for example, now. So for these view message details, if you see, this has a lot of information, right? A lot of information. Now, if I let me just control, let me copy everything. Let me highlight everything inside here. Control C, then place it inside here, for example. Then click on analyze message header. So what this is going to do is that it's going to actually break down all these things that look like jargons into, different section of different sections of the message. Help people to see things around Axio, Acme's signature. These are some advanced stuff Excel itself. What I'm interested is to see the X message exchange organization network ID. So, or the MS Office featuring correlation ID. So this is MS Office. So it is that I look for this, right? Either this is what is going to appear, or XMS Exchange Organization Network ID. So this is actually the network ID that we're referring to here. So you can just paste that here, right? So value, let me clear that, right? So choose at least one recipient who has an issue. So I can put in the name of this recipient there, right? So I've confirmed it is clean. Then you can click on, but let me say it appears clean, submit. So this is like the other way. So instead of waiting for the message trace that we did earlier to now download the report and start seeing, you can actually use this message header analyzer, a tool by Microsoft, right, to actually analyze this. So the feedback is Michael submitted. Thank you for submission. We'll get back to you as soon as the submission has been analyzed. Any updates will be shown in the submission page here. So all you just need to do is to click on done yet, nothing more. So once Microsoft analyzes message, the submission will actually, the feedback based on that submission will actually be shown there. So the same thing goes for if you want to submit URLs like we mentioned to. For in case of URL, you just select the URL, then click on submit to Microsoft Analysis. So if you have a particular URL that you are sure of, just paste the URL here. Just paste the URL here and say it appears clean, then submit. And the same thing goes for email attachment. So it's just basic settings, right? That actually quite easy. So for email attachments, right? Either you don't want it to be blocked in case of something that should be blocked in case of false negative, or something that should have been blocked in case of false positive, right? So the file should actually have a categorized as. That's for in terms of email attachment. So you click on submissions for this. I currently don't have any email attachments downloaded. Well, I just click on upload the file, look for the files, from there. Let me see if I can get an email attachment. let's say that's an email attachment. It appears clean, click on submission. All right. So on the submission page itself, once everything is done on the submission page, right, you can actually sort the entries by clicking on the available column headers. So any of the column headers, just look for it. Okay, I think I submitted something on emails. Let me see the feedback from Microsoft. You can always, get the feedback from Microsoft. And the default value, once the default value here, you can see one is being analyzed, right? You can see the one I just submitted here. So the sender, the user that submitted it, which is the admin that submitted it, and the reason for it submitting, So what is the result? So once everything is done, you'll be able to select, okay, what is the feedback, from Microsoft. So the columns could range from submission name, the sender, the recipient, the date it was submitted, the reason it was submitted, the current status, the results, the filter verdict, and a lot of things can actually, go into that. So once you're done, you can just check that out. Let me see. So once Microsoft is done analyzing it, right? One of the things that happens is that an admin still have the opportunity to view the results, but this is not done analyzing yet. So the messages that are submitted in the admin submission are reviewed, and the results are shown in the submission detail flyout as shown here. So if there was a failure in the sender emails authentication, for example, at the time of delivery, you'll be able to see it once the verdict has been done. If there's anything, so like checking the email details, for example, here, where's the location, the sender's IP, right? The name of the sender that sent it now. Then information about any policy hits that could have been affected or overriding the verdict of the email as well. Then the current detonations results to see if the URLs or files contain message or malicious or they are not malicious. Then if there's any feedback from the grader, so whoever from Microsoft that reviewed that, if they have any feedback, they will also, add it down here. They also add the feedback on there. So this is already detecting that there's some URLs here, right? In the email that I submitted, basically. Then if you want to view for user side of things, so I showed it earlier. Let me go back to the Outlook. So if you have deployed the reports message in adding, so that's talking about the Outlook for web. Now we have this report. It's still trying to show up. Let me click on this. So this can actually be deployed in Outlook for Outlook client application, the one you install locally, right? But for the web, this is already available for you. So one thing that's happened also is that if users also submit some of these stuffs, right? If you deploy the report message adding as shown here, the report phishing adding or the people using the built-in reports in the Outlook for the web, like you can see whether users are reporting on user reports message tab. So if you go to the user reports side of things, for the user report side of things here, you'll be able to see what are the ones that users in your organization has actually reported, right? And the same thing goes by. So the name, the type, who reported it, you'll be able to see it. Who is the sender of the email that was reported? You'll be able to see that the reason why the message was reported, you see the message report ID, even the network message ID, you see if there's any phishing stimulations or where was it reported from? The dates was marked. So those are some of the things that you will be able to see as an admin. So this adding is always good for users to have it, especially those that don't use the Outlook on the web, as I'm on the web, for those that actually use the Outlook on the client. they will be able to, deploy the add-in, and they'll be able to see what is happening. They can report using the report phishing or reporting junk or the emails. Now, once a user also submits a suspicious email to the custom mailbox, right? The users and the admin, they don't have the option to undo any submissions. So sometimes maybe a user is just on the Outlook applications, right? So by mistake, the user went to go and report a message, phishing or junk, right? So that's another thing you have to actually be very careful as users and also admin. So once a user submits the suspicious email to the custom mailbox, right? The user and the admin, none of them have the option to undo the submissions. So if the user would like to recover the emails, it will be available in the recoverable and the deleted items or the junk email folder. So for this email now, if there's any email, I don't want to do anyone, if there's any email that has actually been reported, right? So it get deleted or it goes to the junk email folder here. So in the junk email folder here, if the mails is here, and the user will be able to recover the email back. Then if you want to convert user reported message from the custom mailbox into an admin submission. So one thing you have to do is to, if you have actually configured the custom mailbox to intercept user reported message without sending messages to Microsoft, you can find and send specific messages to Microsoft directly as an admin for analysis. And on the user reported message tab, what you do is that you can go there. So if you have any message that just has been selected, so you just select the message in the list. Then you can now submit the message for analysis. Then select any of the value that will be listed in the drop down. So those 4 values that we've been seeing: report clean, report phishing, report malware, report spam, or trigger investigation. So any of the drop down that will show for you as an admin, you just select it. Okay, feel that the message is clean. Because at the end of the day, those things you're reporting is also contributing to the learning of the AI or the machine learning for the Defender portal, right? So it's contributing. So if you give a wrong information, it's going to learn from that because it's a machine, right? It's not human beings to actually select or to actually investigate. Is what is garbage in, garbage out, right? So that's actually that about submission. Yeah. Do you have any questions so far? Any
None
questions?
so far. No questions.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's go back a bit. So we've talked about incident and alerts, then actions and submission. Let's look at the middle. Yeah. Hunting. Now, if you go to the hunting here, we have two bullets here. We have the advanced hunting and also the custom detection. Let's talk about advanced hunting. Now, advanced hunting is actually a query-based threat hunting tool that lets you explore up to 30 days of raw data, and you can proactively, inspect events in your network to locate threat indicators and entities. And the flexible access to data actually enables unconstrained hunting for both known and potential threats. Now, for advanced hunting generally, right, in Microsoft, the word advanced is not if they say advanced, something is advanced, it's not the same advanced, right? What they meant there is proactive, right? You are doing a check, you're doing an hunting, like you are being proactive, proactively checking your organization to be sure that you don't have any suspicious things, in your organization that will actually that are malicious and that can also, affect the entire operations of the organization. So that's actually what advanced hunting is actually speaking to. Then again, for advanced hunting, right? You are, like I said, you can proactively inspect events in your network to locate threats, indicators, and also entities. Now, advanced hunting supports two modes. we have what we call the guided mode and the advanced mode. Now, for somebody that's just coming into learning about what advanced hunting is, so the guided mode is for somebody that is not yet familiar with what we call the coastal query language, KQL, or prefer the convenience of what we call a query builder. So you use the advanced mode if you're comfortable already using the coastal query language to actually create query from scratch. And you can use the same trend hunting queries to build custom detection rule. So that's the relationship between advanced hunting and the custom detection rule. You use the same trend hunting queries to build the custom detection rule. And these rules run automatically to check for and then respond to any suspected breaches, a breach activity, or if there's any misconfigured machines or other findings. So one of the things that this speaks to is working closely with your Microsoft Defender for endpoint, right? So if there is any machine in your organization that is misconfigured, right, what it does is that the advanced hunting reports any suspected breaches. It actually runs automatically. Now, for advanced hunting generally, it supports queries that checks a broader data set coming from either Microsoft Defender for endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Office 365, Microsoft Defender for cloud applications, or even the Microsoft Defender for identity. And one thing you have to be very careful of is that before you can actually use advanced hunting, basically, before now you have to actually turn on the Microsoft Defender XDR. Let's go up here. So let's take a quick tour. Now, so a lot of changes has actually happened to this particular border. A lot of changes. So it tells you where you pick your hunting path. You can proactively hunt for threats with powerful queries by starting with a query builder in a guided mode or use a coastal query in the advanced mode. Then the next is to actually pick a query created by Microsoft experts to catch common or sophisticated threats in your network, or you save your own and assess them here. Then for getting started, you learn how to use a query builder by loading one of those examples you get. Then you can also access the tool anytime along with the links to documents and tutorials. Yeah, so for advanced hunting, for example, now this is telling us we need to enable Defender for Cloud. So if you don't have anything currently, enabled before, you have to actually, begin to look for, okay, how can I get this enabled? Then how can I, start using these for my organization? Now, for the advanced hunting portal, as you've seen here, it is a unified portal that allows you to view and query all data from the Microsoft Defender XDR. And this includes the Microsoft's data from various Microsoft security services, and as well as even Microsoft Sentinel as well. So any data from non-Microsoft products as well in a single platform. And you can also access and use all your existing, so if at all you have the Microsoft Sentinel workspace content, including queries and functions, you can also use that as well. Then if you are going to query from a single portal across different data sets, it makes hunting more efficient, and it actually removes the need for context switching. Now, Microsoft Sentinel is one of the topics that we're going to talk extensively. Just to introduce it, is actually available in our Defender portal, like I mentioned. If you go down here, you'll be able to see the Microsoft Sentinel. So we have the search capability here. You have the threat management capability. You have the content management capability, and also the configuration. Now, so for Sentinel generally, one of the things that is very important is that you can actually query data in any workload that you're currently access based on your rules and your permission. And to query across Microsoft Sentinel and the Microsoft Defender XDR in the unified advanced hunting page, you need at least one of the Microsoft Sentinel reader role. So roles is actually one of the important things that we'll consider in advanced hunting. Now, most times, if you want to learn the advanced hunting language, there are actually different way we can actually learn it, but either using because already we know that it is actually based on the coastal query language, and for the coastal query language uses operators, statements to actually consult queries, or also that locates information in a specialized and schema. Now, the coastal query language is just like your SQL, only that there is no updates or delete functionality there. The only thing you have is to read. So anything that has to do with update or read functionality, you know, update rather and delete functionality is not currently available for us in the coastal query language. Now, if you look at this portal, for example, so it tells you that secure your cloud access with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Let me click on Enable Defender for Cloud there first. So this is going to take me to the Azure portal where we have the Microsoft Defender for Cloud available. Okay, all right, so waiting for that to load up. Waiting for that to load up. Let me duplicate this, go back to see. I don't want us to jump into Sentinel now because coastal query language is still a topic on its own that we're going to be discussing. All right. Seeing advanced hunt. Okay. Let me click on this plus. Click on the query editor. Let me copy a particular query and paste here so we can actually see how query is generally. Now, first of all, I mentioned to get access to advanced ONSI, to use advanced ONSI itself or any other Microsoft Defender capability. One thing that is very important is that you must have an appropriate role in the Microsoft Entra ID. Either you're a security administrator, security reader, then also your access to endpoints data is also determined by the role-based access control, the RBAC settings that you have in your Microsoft Defender for endpoints. So once we discuss Microsoft Defender for endpoint, we'll be able to see more on that. Now, generally, in terms of data freshness and update frequency, advanced hunting data can be categorized into two distinct types, and each they are actually consolidated differently. The first one we have, we call it events or activity data. Now, for events or activity data, they actually populate table about alerts, about security events, about system events, and even routine assessments. And the advanced ONSI receive this data almost immediately after the sensors that collects them successfully transmits them to the corresponding cloud services. For example, you can actually query event data from an LD sensor, talking about Microsoft Defender for Identity. So an LD sensor on a workstation or a domain controller almost immediately or after they are available in the Defender for Endpoints and also the Microsoft Defender for Identity. That's talking about either the event or activity data. Now, the second type of data type, call it entity data. Now, for entity data, it populates table with information about users and devices. And this data comes from both relatively static data sources and also dynamic sources as well. Such as maybe your Active Directory entries and also even your event logs. So to provide a fresh data, tables are actually updated with any new informations every 15 minutes. So adding rows that might not be fully populated, and every 24 hours, data is consolidated to insert a record that contains the latest and also the most comprehensive data set for each entity. Now, if you look at the KQA schema, for example, now we'll be able to see that we have tables here. So everything you're seeing here, they are actually tables. So for this, I'm talking about alerts and behavioral tables. If you click on this drop down there here, so you'll be able to see different things under that particular tables. There are different columns, different rows, right? Different things that are actually available. Then the same thing goes for this alert info. So based on what the table is all about, this table about alert evidence for. So it wants to read things around what are the timestamp on the alert, what are the alert ID, what are the title, right? What are different things that are available. Now, one thing about Gusto query in terms of time zone is that advanced hunting uses dates that are actually in UTC, which is universal time coordinated, right? So the query should actually be created in UTC. If you want to create any queries at all, when you're considering time, UTC is like 1 hour, 1 hour before our current time zone. And in general, the advanced hunting results are actually converted to the time zones, right? Set in the Microsoft Defender XDR. So any time that you've already set in the Microsoft Defender XDR is what the advanced hunting is going to use for us. Now, looking at some of this table now, let me go to one table that might likely bring something we've done. Let's talk about this identity info, for example. Identity info, let me pick one. Looking for something that has to be logged on. So if you go through each of this, you'll be able to see that, oh, like under identity info now, if you talk about timestamp, report ID, account object ID, account UPN, I'm looking for something that has to be log on. For example, let me use account UPN, for example. So I don't have any data available. I might need to use the example. I just pasted here. Now, for this example now, what this does is that now this is just a comment to tell us what this is doing. Now, if you want to find PowerShell execution events that could involve a download, so you use junior download process events, download network events, where the timestamp is this, right? I'm going to explain some of these things. The download network events and all that, where then you see where file name is this, then where process command line is this, then download file, download data, for example. Let me run this query. Let's see if it's going to give us any results. I'm not sure I've run any PowerShell in the past. Fuel to resource verification, timestamp account UPN. So there's a semantic error in the query. 1 second. Let me remove. Actually run a PowerShell for a very long time, so I doubt it's going to work. Very good. Okay, let's try to understand some of the operators for query before we start building our query here. Now, one of the things you see is where. So where is one of the operators? So this is actually obviously very wrong. Let me close this out. Let this use an example. So when you see where it talks about filtering the table as so the subset of the row that actually satisfy a predicative. So if there's it's like filter this table where this particular condition is satisfied, then another operator that is also common with KQA is summarize. What summarize does is that it produces a table that aggregates the content of the input table. So because this is not a production instance, let me see. So may not be able to get more things logon type because something that relates to okay. So I said summarize produces a table that aggregates the content of the input table. So whatever table you're using as your input table, like if I select this now, this application now, this application is the subject root that's where I'm picking from. The application, I'm going to put actually what the application I'm actually speaking to. Then if I need to actually summarize something for me, begin to build one so I can see how the whole thing actually work. Then another operator is a join operator. Now the join operator actually merge the rows of two tables to form a new table by matching the value of the specific column from each table. So normally you can actually join tables in your KQA. So I'll show how to do that in the demo. Then there's another operator called count. Now the count operation, what it does is that it returns the number of records, in the input record set. So the number of records that you already have based on the condition that you've already stated, it's going to actually return that for you. Then another operator that is also common is top. Now, pop returns the first n record sorted by a specific column. So if we say where the top is you're looking at some particular greater than 90 days or 100 days, for example, now the top operator is actually what is doing that work. Then another operator is the limit. Now the limit operation actually return up to the specific number of row, to the specific number of row that you wanted based on the table to actually return that for you. Then another one that is also common is project. Now the project operation, what it does is that it select the column to include, then it will rename or drop or insert a new completed column into it. Then extend is also another one. Extend or what it does is it creates calculated columns and append them to the result set. Then make set is also one of the operator also. This operator, what it does is that it returns a dynamic JSON array of the set of distinct value that experts take in the group. Then the last one is a find. The find operator, what it does is that it finds the row that matches a predicate across the set of the table. Now, to see how this operator runs, for example, now let's go to new query. Let me close this. Let's bring up a query that is actually select this. All right, so if you want to select let's start from predefined tree query, for example. Now let's pick anyone under this before under apps and identity, because it's possible that we have identity login events. Now for identity logon event, you can just go into schema reference up here and select device logon. So this tells you what this query. So they are actually templates, where you can actually learn from and create using the query builder, for example. So this tells you that it's under descriptions, it tells you that sign-ins and other authentication events. So because I've already done some sign-in, so I want to try this, see what it's going to bring. So click on see preview data. Now I can run this query. Let me select these to last 30 days. Then run this query. Can close this. So there is no logon event found. Let me go to email events. Query. So for this now, what did it do? Went into my email to check some email events. Now for the email events, if you check from here, from the schema reference here, so this is one of the best places that's going to help you. So the query I ran, it was email events. If you click on this, right? Before previewing the data, it will show you some of the things that you be getting. If you click on view all here, so it tells you that the schema type is an advanced table that supports full query capability, and the data retention period is for 30 days. Now, in terms of columns, so these are like columns in the table. If you drop down this table, for example, now, everything you're seeing under here, they are column in the table, just like you actually have a table and you arrange them in rows and columns. So every column in the table, which is what you're actually currently seeing down here, you also see, okay, the timestamp, the date, and the time when the record was generated, the network message ID, a unique identifier for email generated by Office 365, and in terms of our internet message ID, So that speaks to the public facing identifier for the email that is set by sending email to the system. So depending on what you want to build, you can basically select. Let me select device log on event. We're gonna have anything. See preview. So we don't have anything for that. Let's go back. Identity log on events. So nothing to show for that. To alert info. So the alert info, something I did today is what's brought for me. So the submission I did earlier today, say quickly classify this alert, classify the alert to improve alert accuracy. So it tells you that an admin submit so reports completed. So speaking back to what I submitted earlier, yeah.
Sorry, I have a quick question.
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. So when you use take 5 and you use top number 5, does the take 5 takes the most recent 5 or the top 5, or it just randomly takes 5 records out of whatever query what you're querying from?
So for the take file, it takes the 5 recent record. That's what it does. Why for the top 5? Well, because we're talking about 5 here, it looks like, okay, what are the top files in terms of events that has happened for this particular query?
Okay, so does it use time based to randomly pick the 5 then if it's picking the top 5? Like,
So
does it?
it looks like, okay, look at this. Look at the query history for this now. Let me change this to top 5. This from query. So for this, it tells you what there's a syntax error there. So that means that particular alert input type only work with the take 5 on the query here. Let's see. Try seeing the difference. So the take file is taking what, so depending on for each of these query or the operator, right? They have what they use. The count operator return the number of records in the input set, while the top return the first end record sorted by specific column. If you're using the take or the find, so the find uses the find uses the match that predicts across the set of the row that actually matches the predictive, basically. So I think updates are currently, Microsoft is running updates. So sometimes some of the filters or the operators, some of them might actually be the provision, replaced with another one, basically. So when you're running using the query builder, it will definitely give you an error if what you're trying to run is not actually, the command is not actually, if you preview it, for example, now. So this gives you the alerts event. So this gives me, so it tells me that there's an error in the syntax. Are you getting it now? There's an error. From the old portal, where we have the advanced hunting, some of the filters were actually being used, or some of the operators are being used. The moment they move into, so this is like the new portal for the advanced hunting, right? And for the new portal, basically some syntax that actually worked in the old portal, some of them do not work, but they are still basically the same way. That's why we have the query builder to actually, help us to build our query. So let me check some of these. Let me use the stock. Now the top, are you seeing it now? It must have timestamp with it. Run this. Incomplete fragments. Line 3. Go back. So for this events, email events that says limit 10. So this is limiting based on these of more than 10. Okay, so it's limit based on 10. Let me check the dates and the time. So it's telling me there's an alert. Let me check the sender, then the recipient. Okay, sending to the admins. So this has alerts that Microsoft is sending to the admin based on activities that's happening in the tenants. So we can use the get started here to actually see and play around each of these the query. We have a complete class for Kusto query where we actually talk about Kusto query as a fundamental. Let me see a lot on the. I'm not sure there's anything on the exposure management. Not sure how devices. Let me see. I don't have devices. Emails. Let me see for emails attachments. So this shows me basically events from that has emails attachments, the sender. So you can see the network message ID also appearing here. Network message ID also appearing here for each of those message. Apart from using the test connectivity, which is a message analyzer. So that was what I was trying to remember. This URL here. So this URL is from Microsoft Test Connectivity. Microsoft.com. So this is one powerful tool from Microsoft that can help you do a lot of things around analyzing message headers. So depending on the scenario, so if I want to analyze message header, I come down here and it opens that for me. So if I need to maybe have issue by Microsoft Teams, for example, now I have some tools that can help me troubleshoot Teams here. Let me go to, so the same message generator that we have here. So that's actually it. I want to do a network test, for example. So this takes you to connectivity.office.com, where you can actually do your Microsoft 365 connectivity test. Okay. So these are pre-built queries, right? That you can actually do. We'll be building queries based on as we proceed in the class, building queries. The interface has actually changed about each query that talks about the data type around date, time, the string, the bold, even the int, as well as the log. Then also work extensively with multiple queries using the query editors to see how we can get it. So you have to basically know, what am I looking for, right? To know the query that you want to build. What exactly am I looking for? Are there events that I would like to review? Are there some emails, URL info that I want to check? And from there, email URL info, can run a query for it. So so this is giving me a report based on the filter 7 days, yeah? For the last 7 days, this is able to give me different reports about that. So if I need to now start adding the timestamp and other things, the string, the date, right? I can basically go into the table, and select a timestamp. So which time do I want to use? Or if I have a specific URL location, I can put that URL location that I want, So the GUI basically help us to create our custom query language that you're able to use. Let me close this. So it's clear that we have syntax error. So we'll build a key here from that. Now for each of the advanced ONTI capabilities, we can have a custom detection rule that can be created from the advanced ONTI, right? Now for the custom detection rule itself, it's actually directly linked, to the advanced ONTI. 1 second, let me pull up something. And to look for a good query, a good query I can use based on this environment. User info, see, mirror query. You have everything down in the result there. Behavior entity. Initiated by 30 days. I don't have. So let me try this. Events. Yeah, these are email events. So we need to build our query using some of the emails and collaboration. Now for our custom detection rule, right? There are rules you can design and tweak using the advanced hunting queries, right? And these rules basically let you to proactively monitor various events and system states, including if there's any suspected breach activity and also some misconfigured endpoints. And you can also set them to run at regular intervals by generating alerts and taking response action whenever there are matches, basically. And one thing Microsoft does is that in terms of permission to manage custom detection, Microsoft recommends that you use rules with the fewest permission In other words, this actually helps to improve the security of your organization, because the global admin is a highly privileged role that should be limited to just emergency scenarios when you can't create an existing rule. Now, to manage the custom detection rule itself, you need to actually be assigned any of the role. Either you are actually a security settings manager, is actually a user with the Microsoft Defender permission to manage security settings in the Microsoft Defender portal. If you go to System Settings, that's my Defender portal, emails and collaboration. Let me see. Section. These are presets. These are preset configurations that, let me see, identity. So these are other settings that are actually available for us. So for Defender for identity, I really don't have anything. So I don't expect to see anything here, basically. Security administrator is also another role that I mentioned. So user with a security administrator role can manage security settings in the Microsoft Defender portal and other portals and the services relating to security. Then security operator. So with this role, users can actually manage alerts and have a global read-only access to security-related features generally. And the rule is actually sufficient for managing custom detection rule. So if only there's a role-based access control is turned off in the Microsoft Defender for endpoints. So you actually have the role-based access control configure, and you need to manage the security settings permission for Defender for endpoint. Let me see that. Defender for endpoints. So under roles, so you can actually turn on the role, right? By providing a granular option for regulating permissions to portal features and also as well to data. Now you can manage custom detection rule to actually apply to data from specific Microsoft Defender solutions. Like if you have the right permission for them, for example, if you only have to manage permission for Office 365, for example, now you can create custom detection rule using an email table, but not an identity table. So if you go back to this advanced author IDs, since what you're focusing on as the administrator is Defender for Office 365. So everything you need is under emails and collaboration. So because Office 365 is all about emails and collaboration, then if what you want to manage is under devices, talking about endpoints. So maybe what's your role as the security operator analyst is to manage just the Defender for endpoint side of things. So what you need to do is to actually, create a custom detection rule for devices here. So based on what you want to monitor in that device, you'll be able to create that. And the same thing goes for apps and identity. So maybe what you are interested is your cloud application events. As an organization, you have a lot of cloud apps applications like that you want to, get events on. You'll be able to, select this cloud apps events, and from there you'll be able to manage that. So for your custom detection rule generally, you have to focus on which one is actually important to me. So let's see what I want to create is I want to manage cloud apps events. So the moment you select this in, this is enabled for you. With this, you'll be able to create a custom detection rule after creating, writing your query. So that will actually basically create that for you. Be creating for some of the things I'm trying to, once I onboard some device, understand how to be able to create for devices so that we can check device network events, device logon events, right? So this open a pin for you for the custom detection rule where you can select, okay, what should I name this detection name, right? You put the name to detect, or just say device events, device events. Then the frequent, so this is actually recommended to have a continuous monitoring, right? Or you want to monitor every hour or every 3 hours. So NTR is actually recommended. So the title of the alerts, so that for you as a responder, you're the SOC analyst now, you want to know any alert that is pertaining to you. So probably you want to use a naming convention of the name of the detection name and putting your name at the back or your initials. So you know that that alert that was triggered that you're seeing under your alert and incident. The moment you see your name, you'll be able to know that, oh, this alert is for me. I created a custom detection rule for this. Then selecting severity. So let me just say, I want to create device events. So I can put my name. So I know that once there are alerts that is with this name, I know that it is coming from a custom detection rule that I created and something that I want to monitor. Then in terms of severity, I can select maybe high, low, or medium for the severity of the alert, depending on the state of the asset. Maybe the asset is actually like a domain controller, for example, now. And as a domain controller, I want to ensure that any alert that is coming from there, I want to take them as priority. So I can select it as high. Then in terms of category, so based on the rules that I created, so I can actually select any of the category. Okay, there is suspicious activity going on based on the device event. So I'm able to select that. Then if I need any threat report, I can select a threat report that is actually related to that. So we'll not actually discuss threat reports, but you pick any threat report. So let me put a threat report that has to do with device. So let's see, what I want to actually check is detect lateral movement via this protocol, right? So it will link to that particular activity profile. So I can actually put a full description here so that any other person that is seeing this person will be able to know that for this particular alert, this is what this SOC analyst is trying to. Then if there's any recommended actions, right, for responder, maybe I'm not around and I'm on leave and I need a colleague to work on something like this, I can put in a recommended actions here. That's when there is this particular alert, this is what they need to do. Then once that is done, we just want to manage device events, recommended action. Um, let me see uninstall. So this is just something I'm just making up randomly. Uninstall antivirus. And just that's just the recommended action, right? Or install an antivirus. Then I can select next here to identify the affected assets in your query. So based on the assets, it could be a device, mailbox, or a user. So I think for what I selected, I was talking about, so that's why these other tools are grayed out. Select users, then which is the user ID. Do I want to use account ID or account object ID? So I can select that, then say next. So what is the action that should happen for this custom detection rule? So I can choose an applicable action to take on the entity by the queries. So for the devices, so anything I want to do here. So it's not speaking to a device. So this is grayed out. For a file, it's also grayed out. But for users, so I want the user to be marked as compromised. Then based on choose user account object ID, And for emails, everything will be grayed out because that query is speaking to the users. Then click on next. So this just give me a summary of everything I've configured for the custom detection rule. So as soon as I'm okay with everything. If I need to make any changes, I can always go back. If I'm okay with the custom detection rule I've created, I'll just click on submit. So this is basically going to submit that for me. So you tell me rules is saved successfully. I go to custom detection rule. I'm able to see the rules that I've created here. So that's actually how to create a custom detection rule. So the idea is that first of all, what do I plan to achieve with this rule? Once I know what I want to achieve with the rule, then I'll be able to create that. So we'll be doing something around creating device events and let me go back to incident that respond on team, then advance on team.